I want to invest in a set of compact, affordable cinema primes. There's a lot on the market, but the three that caught my eye were the DZOFILM Vespids, the NiSi Athenas, and the Irix Cine Lenses. Spoiler alert, I did these tests already and bought a set of lenses. I'll go over that set at the end of this video, but I wanted to share the tests that I did in order to confidently make that decision of which set of lenses to buy. This video is sponsored by Artlist, but more on them later.
First off, what I wanted in my set of lenses, I wanted a set that was fast, had a little bit of character, but it wasn't over the top, but it wasn't clinically sharp like a photo lens would be.
It's very important that these lenses have a consistent look throughout the set though. I don't mind soft edges or flares wide open, but I would like them to clean up around T4 or T5.6.
I based some of those initial impressions based on their aperture ranges. The aperture range of the Irix Cine lens is T1.5 to T16. The Athena is T1.9 to T22, and the Vespid is T2.1 to T22. Let's keep this in mind when we're talking about the image quality. When it comes to image quality, let's take an unopinionated response first. Speeding through some charts, you can pause this part of the video if you need to. For the Athena, wide open at T1.9, the Athena has a lot of chromatic aberration throughout the frame. The edges are also very soft, but vignetting is gone by T4. The center is sharp wide open, but the chromatic aberration makes it look a little bit soft. The CA is less apparent and sharpens up by T2.8. The edges of the frame are sharp at T4. The edges of the frame have signs of color fringing throughout the aperture ranges, so if you're really pixel peeping, you'll be able to notice at 300 or 400%, but at 100%, I wasn't able to notice any chromatic aberration past T4 or T5.6. For the Vespid, the center is sharp wide open. The Vespid also has some chromatic aberration in the corners until about T5.6, but the color fringing is very subtle. The fringing looks more like out of focus areas. That could be why the edges take until 5.6 to sharpen up. Vignetting on the Vespid is gone by T4. For the Irix, we have heavy vignetting wide open, but the vignetting is completely gone by T4. The center is sharp wide open, but also there is some distracting chromatic aberration here. This is gone by T2 though. Surprisingly, the edges are sharp, even wide open at T1.5. I was very surprised it took the Athenas until T2.8 and the Vespid until T4 to match the sharpness of the Irix at T1.5. I was also surprised at the chromatic aberrations on the Athenas. I thought the Vespids were going to have the worst color fringing, but that really wasn't the case. The Athenas actually had more color fringing issues than the Vespids. The Irix did have a lot of color fringing wide open in the center, but very little in the corners, and it was gone by T2. The Vespid did have some of the worst distortion of the three though. With the Athena, the Vespid and the Athena were pretty close, but the Irix had noticeably less distortion than these other two lenses. All these lenses are sharp in the center, but I wouldn't use the Irix or the Athenas wide open if I was looking for the sharpest results, because the chromatic aberrations almost make the image look a little bit soft. For the best results, the fastest I'd go with these lenses are T2 or even 2.8 for the best image. Maybe that's why the Vespids start at T2.1. After comparing the image quality to these other two, they do look very similar. However, just because they're faster doesn't mean I would actually use them at those aperture ranges. When it comes to colors, the Vespids were a little bit warm. The Irix was a little warm and skewed green just a little bit, while the Irix was just way off. My white balance was set to manual. I did not change lighting between these sets, and all other settings were the same. I tested the Irix lens twice, and these were my results both times.
I was very surprised at the color cast of the Irix lens. I thought this was going to be the most neutral because it was the most sharp. However, in my testing, this had the most color cast of all three lenses. The reason I was able to make this video and rent all of these lenses is because of today's sponsor, Artlist. Artlist has over 400,000 assets available for you to use in your videos, and they make it easy for you to find music and sound effects to help your viewer experience your work. Their tools make it easy to find the exact song to fit the tone you're trying to convey, and they have thousands of different songs to choose from. They have playlists of songs to help you get some inspiration. You can also choose a genre and refine your results with mood keywords. You can even get as granular as selecting which instrument you would like to have in your song. You can also choose if you want vocals or adjust the BPM of the track as well. A feature that I love is the Similar Songs button. This button allows you to bring up similar songs to help you refine your results even further. Discovering the perfect sound effects is another reason why I love Artlist. They have a huge collection of high-quality sound effects that help you tell your story. Sound effects help immerse your viewers in your scene, from slow footsteps to create suspense, to running to help convey action. Artlist has an extensive catalog of music and sound effects to help take your videos to the next level. For creators, you can also link your social channels for automatic copyright clearing of their royalty-free music and remove the headache of copyright claims. Artlist has over 400,000 assets available and more are being added constantly, so you'll be sure to find exactly what you're looking for. And they're giving my viewers 2 months for free if you use my link in the description below. Thank you, Artlist, for sponsoring this video.
When it comes to focus breathing and lens characteristics for these 3 lenses, the Irix is definitely the sharpest. It feels more clinical in the image quality. However, there is some noticeable focus breathing, and the color casting makes it feel a little less sterile and a little more creative, but not maybe in a good way. The Vespid does skew a little warm. I think the center being sharp wide open while the edges take until t5.6 to really clear up make this lens have a very different feel to it. The focus plane is wider, but the edges being soft just give it a different look. I'm not really sure how to put my finger on it, but that was the best way I could articulate the character of the Vespid lens. I tested the focus breathing also, and there is some, but it's not overly distracting if you're doing a lot of focus racks, in my opinion. The Athenas are also slightly warm and a little bit green, but they still feel neutral, if that makes any sense. They are sharp wide open. They have more focus breathing than the Vespids, but not by much more. To me, this skews a little bit more clinical than organic. When it comes to minimum focusing distance, the Athena 35 is 11.8 inches, the Vespid 35 is 12 inches, and the Irix 30mm is 13.4 inches. Here is also a comparison of all of the flaring and bokeh between these lenses. These are pretty subjective, and the phone flashlight in a dark room is as extreme as it's going to get for any of these lenses. I'll also include some sun flares for these to get a better idea how they flare in daylight. Just for reference, all of the daylight footage here was filmed at t2.8 on all of the lenses. Another thing to consider when buying a set of lenses is the focal lengths and mounts they have available. When it comes to cinema lenses, I like to use PL lenses and then just adapt them to whatever camera system I'm working with. Here is a chart of all the focal lengths and mounting options available for these lenses. 2 really quick notes about the Athenas and the Vespids. If you're going to choose a Vespid, they do have a rear mounted filter option. However, if you're going to be using those filters, it's actually recommended that you shim your lens. So if you're using an ND filter for one shot and then you're going to remove the ND filter from the back of your lens for the next shot, it's actually recommended to re-shim your lens because it will actually change the distance between your adapter or your camera and the lens. I think that seemed like a good idea on paper, but until you're actually changing the distance of your lens to your sensor just to use a filter, you might as well just use screw-on filters or a matte box at that point. That would be more reliable and it would save a ton of time. When it comes to the Athenas, if you will be using the PL versions like I like to use for my lenses, if you adjust the focus, the back of the lens actually extends or contracts back into the body of the lens. So if you're using a filter on the very back of your lens, it may not actually work if you're focusing the PL version just because the back of the lens extends. That seems like a very interesting design choice. That is a little bit of a bummer if you're going to be using the PL version and you want to use a rear mounted filter. For me, I'm totally fine using either screw-on filtration or NDs, or a matte box with filtration and NDs. But that is one thing to note: if you like to use an adapter with NDs in the back just to keep a nice lightweight kit, the PL version of the Athenas may give you some problems there. For image circle, the Irix has a 43.3 millimeter image circle, the Vespid has a 46.5 millimeter image circle, and the Athenas have a 46 millimeter image circle. Also, for filter size, the Athenas and the DZOs have 77 millimeters throughout the lens set, while the Irix actually has an 86, and 86 millimeter front threads are kind of hard if you use screw-on filters. The outer diameter is 80 millimeters if you're using a clamp-on matte box. And for the life of me, I can't remember the Irix. I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'll put it on screen right now. Also, I should have mentioned this earlier, when it comes to lens mounts, the Irix and the Athenas cannot be changed once you buy them in the mounts that you choose. When it comes to the Vespids, you can buy them. They come in a PL mount, and they include an EF mount in the box. So you can choose between EF and PL mounts, and you can also shim them yourself. So in the future, if something happens and the focus distance markers just aren't making sense anymore, you can take the back of the lens out and remove or add shims as needed. And they do also include shims in the EF adapter kit, so that is included with the Vespids. While using these lenses handheld, I realized there is a huge difference between the focus and iris rings on all of these lenses. On the NiSi Athena, I love the tension of the focus and iris rings. However, I'm not a fan of the design of the focus ring if I will be pulling focus by hand. Since these lenses are so small, I love using them handheld. However, if you're doing long focus throws that go over the front of the cutout for the focus distance meters, it could be possible for you to bump the focus and actually bump the camera if you're going to be using them for longer focus throws. Very simple solution here is to just use a follow focus on the side of your camera. On the DZO Vespids, I absolutely love the focus and iris tension. The focus throw is 270 degrees and it is very easy to adjust, but it's also precise. I love that the body in front of and behind the focus ring also adjusts the focus. If you're adjusting focus by hand on the barrel of the lens, I much prefer this design over the Athenas or the Irix lenses. For the Irix, the focus ring is very stiff and difficult to rotate handheld. The focus ring is smaller and it's almost sunk flush into the body, so it can be a little bit hard to adjust. It works totally fine with a follow focus though. The iris ring is very close to the mount though. I'm using the DZO Octopus PL to E mount, and the mount interferes with the iris ring since it's so close to the mount. If you're using a PL adapter with these lenses, make sure it has the proper clearance if you're using iris motors. Another really picky thing is that the Irix and the Athenas have very well-built lens caps, but when it comes to the DZOFILM's lens caps, they work, but they're just not as secure as the Irix or the NiSi caps. I know this is getting really picky, but I thought the DZOFILM lens caps were so bad I had to include this in this video. And if you really want to be more secure, but you have a set of Vespids, you can buy a set of replacement NiSi Athena front lens caps, and they will fit onto the front of your Vespids. A little bit of a troll, but it will work.
All of these lenses are pretty affordable in the scheme of cinema lenses, but here are the current prices for each lens and set. Specialty lenses like the macro lenses are going to be more expensive, but these are the average prices. Keep in mind, these prices may fluctuate over time.
So when it comes time to choose a set of lenses to buy after all the tests that I did, I went with the DZOFILM Vespids. These lenses have the character I'm looking for wide open, however they can still clean up if I stop down the lenses. If I need clinical lenses for now, I'll end up shooting with the Vespids between T5.6 or T10 if I'm working with a team, or I'll just use my photo glass if I'm looking for something that I need clinical precision with autofocus. Or if I need something even more, I will just rent the set of Sigma high-speed Cine Primes. I would love to be able to buy a set of those in the future. However, after looking at the financials of it, owning a set of Sigma Cine Primes, I could have the 5-lens kit of the Irix Cine Lenses, the 5-lens kit of the NiSi Athenas, and the 7-lens kit of the Vespids, and still have money left over for adapters when it comes to comparing them to the Sigma Cine Primes.
For shooting products, I think the Athenas are going to excel over the Vespids if you're shooting wide open till about T4. I think there's less of a gap between these lenses if you're shooting T5.6 and beyond, but the fun part of these lenses is shooting them wide open to take advantage of all the character and imperfections that these lenses give you. With my clients, the Vespids were a better fit for me right now, but I could also see myself owning a set of Athenas in the future if I need a little bit more precision, wide open. Will my clients notice the difference between the Vespids and the Athenas? Probably not, but I will.
If I shot very precise tabletop videos or something that I needed to be very sharp in studio, wide open, I could see the Irix lenses being more attractive, but then again, the color casting for me is very off-putting. One of the reasons I'd buy a set of cinema lenses is for a consistent look throughout the set of lenses. After my tests, I went online and read that users of the Irix Cine Lens set were also reporting color casting issues between the different lenses in the set. Disclaimer, I have not tested this myself, so take this with a grain of salt. But if you're moving fast and you want a consistent look in your entire project and a consistent look in your monitor when swapping lenses, this is something that's really difficult for me to get past with the Irix lens set. Regardless of what lenses you end up going with, one of their main benefits is their price tag. Being able to own a set of cinema lenses is something that in the past I didn't think would be something that I would ever be able to do. Looking at the price of one lens was about $10,000, but now we can have lenses for about $1,200, which really changes the game in owning your own set of lenses. This is awesome because I can take these lenses out and they're dependable enough that I know I can use them on my professional gigs and just bill them as a rental to my clients. But I can also take these and use them on my own personal projects, and that's one less line item if I want to shoot a short film that I have to rent out from someone else. Right now, it doesn't make much financial sense for me to own a set of Sigma Cine Primes. As much as I would love a set of them, it would just take way too long for them to pay themselves off with the current rental rates of the clients that I currently have. That's not a bad thing, it's just not what they're looking for right now. I'm going to make a video going over my 7-lens kit of Vespid Primes because I made a bit of a non-standard kit. So, and I have reasons why I chose all of these different lenses. So these are going to be used a lot more in the future. So be sure to subscribe and check back for that video when it does go live. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. And thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.